Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Picture at the Oscars. Questions for a lot of people. Is this film really that good? Maybe it got too much hype. I'm going to go through the first 10 minutes of it, shot by shot almost, do an analysis of it as a film critic, as an enhanced viewer, and try to show you some things about this movie, why I think it's great in just the first 10 minutes, all the chaos and all the shot making and all the colors and everything else in this first 10 minutes of this movie. Let's check this out coming up next. All right, so Everything Everywhere All at Once. I love this movie. I thought it was great in the theater. It's held up on a couple rewatchings for me. One of the rules here in this video, by the way, because of demonetization and blocking, I'm going to have to show basically 15 to 20 seconds per clip and then stop. So I'm going to be stopping pretty often here, so bear with me. This is how I would hope my students or a lot of people could look at film and see how it's made, and that's how it's making its meanings. You have the content of the movie, which is a family in a laundromat, and they're not getting along, and all kinds of relationships they're not getting along with. Then it expands into a wild and wacky multiverse movie. Yet the core of it is still, to me, the family at the laundromat. So I'm going to show you how this movie sort of sets itself up and prepares you for all the crazy, wacky absurdism that comes later in the movie. Now, obviously, I'm going to be spoiling the movie too, so if you haven't seen it, maybe you want to go see it and then come back to this video, because I think the first 10 minutes, the opening shots, which establish so much, including the rules of the movie, can prepare a viewer for, as I said, for everything that comes later. But I think you have to see the whole movie in order to get quite a bit of what I'm going to tell you. Fair warning then. All right, so the first shot of the film is, a slow move in towards a mirror, and already we're at the end of the movie, the middle part of the movie, the MacGuffin of the movie, the everything bagel that the daughter creates, the Joy character named Jobu Tobaki as this multiverse villain, who creates an everything bagel, a symbol of nihilism perhaps, all-consuming despair, depression, something like that. And then she tries to suck her mother into it as she's killing her mother across all the universes in the multiverse, which is, I guess, infinite. But the symbol of the O is one of the major repetitive symbols in the movie. The symbol of the O, the everything bagel, the circle of annihilation. I would argue, though, that it's not just that. It's also a circle of fun, joy, to pun on her name, and enjoyment. And here you see the family doing karaoke. This will come up later in the movie when the IRS agent played by, the IRS agent played by Jamie Lee Curtis circles a receipt, makes a big black receipt, or a circle on a receipt, and then in the middle of that is karaoke machine, one of the expenses of the laundromat. And one of the reasons they're having tax problems and an audit by the IRS is they're spending money on ridiculous things that don't have the things to do with their business, but they want to have fun. And the character of Evelyn, pictured on the right in this mirror shot, it wants to be a singer, and that comes up in the multiverses, in a couple of the multiverses, including one where she's a celebrity. She's a singer, but yet she's here stuck in this humdrum life. Later in the movie, it's called she's the worst possible version of herself, a busy, chaotic, small business owner who's having trouble with every single member of her family, and the threat is that they will sever their family ties as Chinese immigrants to the United States. This shot goes in and focuses in on the family, and then it will switch out to daylight. And already we're having a multiverse idea here, which is there's going to be multiple realities. One is a mirrored reality, quoting a bunch of movies like The Matrix, The Truman Show, anything with mirrors. And then the second is Alice Through the Looking Glass, classic novel. When you get to the daytime scene of the mirror, you're going to notice some objects in the frame that are going to actually, in a vague way, hint at the multiverse. On the right, guess what? There's a raccoon for that ridiculous raccoon multiverse, Raccoon Cooey, a play or pun on Ratatouille. And some of these books, which actually I can't read except the one in blue, it's How to Be a Singer. I bet if you go, and you will see that in the sequence of 10 minutes, but the rest of the movie, you will find all these Easter eggs, all these hints for your unconscious mind to pick up that sort of foreshadow what's to come, that prepare you for bigger things later. And that's one thing we're going to look at in this sequence. As this thing goes on, we go into the mirror world as if it's Alice Through the Looking Glass, as if it's an alternate reality, which is what every movie ever is, sort of a dream. This movie gets to dream big, and we go up to the main character. The first shot of her establishes her desk. It's chaotic. And as a student pointed out to me, this movie is about everything everywhere all at once. Everything matters till nothing. And one of the questions is, does nothing matter? Does everything matter? If we live in an infinite number of universes, infinite multiverses, in some other universe you're a great person, some other universe you're a bum, some other universe you're a Nazi supporter, some other universe you're a pacifist. Like, at some point there's every possibility ever in every universe. So why does your particular universe, or the place that you're in right now, matter, including doing taxes, including taking care of laundry? You know, it's a question that comes up in the movie. At the beginning, to me, here's the desk of IRS receipts. It's cluttered. It's chaotic. That's her life right now, the laundromat right now. And she probably, on one interpretation, thinks everything matters too much. Everything matters so much, it's a distraction, distracting her from her family and other things like that. So you go, this character's arc, in a way, one way to frame it is going from everything matters to nothing matters, kind of siding with her daughter, back to everything matters, but the things that matter, like her family, individual family relationships, like her business, like living in peace with her husband, and so on and so forth. So the start of the movie then is different, quite a bit different from some of the shots near the end of the movie. You'll note the multiple screens up here, which was the television set, the security cameras around the laundromat, but that was going to be a big deal later on in the sequence, and it hints at the multiverse. There are multiple perspectives on one situation, multiple ways of looking at everything, multiple different kinds of places at once with the pop physics multiverse theory. And you must know this movie is riffing on physicists, theoretical physicists, telling us that multiverses, infinite universes, it's a plausible idea according to their equations. And so this movie has crazy fun with that idea, making it absurd here. I think the TV is setting us up for that. Notice what you can see in this. There's maybe many things. Maybe that fan is a little hint of the circle of nihilism, the everything bagel that comes later. Also, that sign right there. She is going to, in another multiverse, wave a sign, or be one of those advertising people on sidewalks that wave signs around to get people to come into businesses. So that may be a hint of another multiverse. Let's see which other ones you could find in this shot. And, of course, the googly eyes up to the top right. That bag will be used later in the sequence that we're going to analyze. But the googly eyes is a positive symbol of the black hole of nothing. It's a fun, playful thing. For her, it's terrible, it's stupid. At the beginning of the movie, she takes the googly eyes off the laundry or off the dryer, washer, whatever it is. But it becomes a symbol of fun later. So I'm telling you, that symbol of blackness, that all-consuming blackness with a white core inside, the everything bagel, well, it's nihilism to the daughter for a while, and she creates that. I think it's a symbol of fun. The question is, how do you look at it? How do you look at this symbol, which could be yin-yang-like and about balance and order, but it is also a question of what you see in something. Is it all worth nothing, or is it worth everything? Anyway, this sequence goes on. We go up to her, and immediately she's speaking Chinese. So there's this mixture of Chinese and English. A wonderful little scene here, because her husband is in this mirror. He's a small, pathetic creature in her world. It's a different perspective on him, one she doesn't have. We have it, but she doesn't. He lives in a mirror world, and of course that signals he's the character who initiates things outside of this universe. He comes from the Alphaverse, another universe, and gets her to be the chosen one, the hero of the whole story, his alternate self, that is. I love this shot, though, because he comes in the foreground on the left, and you don't see him except in the mirror on the right. So it's like he's a split self. And then he's going to wipe across the frame, and he goes to the other side. There's two ways that, I think that what this means, there's two ways that she sees him. She sees him as a distant individual on the other side of the desk who can't be seen, who's faceless. And then he makes the initiation to move to the other side to try to develop a relationship with her. Of course, what he's doing is delivering her divorce paper. He wants to talk about their marriage. Delivering divorce papers, the thing that matters more than the chaos of the business and the taxes and all that, which is what she's invested in. And you will see throughout this scene how crazy busy she is. She has little time or effort for other people, including her husband here. And then later on in this opening 10-minute sequence, her daughter. Her daughter's trying to talk to her about her friendship with, or her relationship with another woman, the girlfriend that she has, and the mother's all confused and convoluted, dealing with the business more than talking to her daughter. This sequence will also jump all over this is to be noted for the whole time, the whole rest of this video, will jump over the 180-degree axis, the classic, horizon line that movie cameras shouldn't jump over, and if they do, they're violating the basic rules of basic, human perspective tenets, I guess. So it will jump over the 180-degree line many, many, many times. I think showing us the chaos of this family and their business. I also think it's showing us that these characters have wildly different perspectives of each other. And so that right there, the 180-degree flips, there'd probably be 30 to 50 of them. And that is an unusually high number. But this whole sequence wants to show us how chaotic the lives of these family members are. So Evelyn, the character, will go down into the laundromat and then back to the apartment and down, I think, 3 times. This is a nice shot, by the way, of a sequence of 3 shots. He's trying to get her to see what matters. And so a lot of times you'll have this focus change or wild camera movement to focus to a different thing. The Daniels, the directors, are using the camera here to, again, create chaos and to create multiple perspectives. You have a bunch of focus changes, and that focus change was to show the grandfather and Joy can get along, and they did. The grandfather holding the baby, that's the nuclear family unit here that needs to be healed at the end of the movie. It's kind of a classic nuclear family melodrama, and there's a lot of, if I can call it this, I don't mean it in a bad way, cliches in this movie. This movie uses classic things like immigrant story, problems between generations, the traditional Chinese grandfather and then the more modern American granddaughter, and they can't get along. They don't have the language to get along. So then the parents here are go-betweens, and they're sort of Chinese and sort of Americans. There's a bunch of those basic drama, movie drama, things that come up in this movie. But then it takes it and then absurdizes it, if that's a word, through the multiverse. Now, once you get to Waymond, who is the husband, played wonderfully by this actor who when in the movie theater, I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen him in 30, 40 years. Like, where has he been? Of course, the kid from Goonies and the kid from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Now he's a grown man. And he won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. He, all these associations come up with Michelle Yeoh, obviously, too. Who have they been in other movies, and how does that factor into this movie where they're playing humdrum characters who are going through an IRS tax audit? In other movies have been more exciting, I would say. So that's an interesting feature of this movie, all the various associations that these actors or scenarios displayed in the movie have. Jamie Lee Curtis later as the IRS agent who's with Halloween. She plays sort of a horror movie monster for a little bit in this movie as well. The divorce papers have the O again, Waymond Wang. This is a basic shot, extreme close shot that shows us the divorce papers, so we know the tension, one of the tensions of the story. But the O of nihilism is right there. In fact, several times, including in Waymond's name and the word divorce. Now we get the introduction to Joy. It's wonderful. This laundry spinning, the never-ending cycle that is meaningless because it can never be complete, and she's staring into the laundry. It happens that the laundromat has many, many dark O's, spinning O's, like the everything bagel nonsense that comes up later in the movie, a symbol of her depression, despair, anxiety, youthful troubles, her troubles with her mother, and so on. And you get this wonderful close shot of Joy, fourth wall break, staring at us as if we are being addressed, or we should feel what she feels, and an accentuation of that. The opening introduction to her is that spinning, the associations are being created, the spinning circle of nihilism with Joy herself in the laundromat. And partly it's the laundromat causing this, partly it's her mother. What gets her out of this is the kiss and then the joy, pun intended again, of this relationship. Although in this shot, the characters have this, and it's faint, it's out of focus, but these busy customers, and then this of this, what is that? The opening of the laundry machine, washer or dryer, and between them. And then when the mother shows up, we're seeing the first shot of her relationship with Joy, and she's literally coming between these characters, and we've done a 180-degree flip. So I want you to remember this, because later on, you'll get a different shot of how the mother relates to the daughter and the girlfriend. Here, coming between. She's small, she's pathetic, she's splitting them up, and maybe she's annoyed by them to some degree. She's, causing angst for her daughter as well. 180-degree flip tends to mean chaos, confusion. Character relationships are at odds. I think that's what it tends to mean here in this sequence as well. But remember this, because when the grandfather shows up, the shot will be quite a bit different. The way that they're composed on the screen, the mother will relate differently to the daughter and the girlfriend. 180-degree flip there, 180-degree flip there, 180-degree flip again. There's going to be 3 or 4 of those right there as Joy and the mother are first shown together on screen. The big long shot here at 4:02, where the camera goes and has many different focal points and is like a third party to this family, observing them, and is creating some chaos, I think, for the feeling of franticness, which is what you want to have here for this mother and the small business character of Evelyn. You're going to see, though, that when they have dinner, these characters split up into pairs, and maybe 3 pairs. There's 4 people here. The fun-loving pair in the background as dinner's being prepared is they're just having small talk, having fun. That's Waymond and the girlfriend versus the daughter and her mother, Joy and Evelyn, who are at odds. They're talking about all manner of things. The daughter's trying to get her focus on the problem of introducing the girlfriend to the grandfather. The mother's very scatterbrained. And you have all kinds of 180-degree flips here, over across that island and back as they're preparing food. And then the pairings are 2 or 3 different ones, including a shot at 5:02 where Evelyn is separated from the 3 of them in the talk about the audits and the focus changes that happen right there. This is all to say that the relationships between these characters are extremely fraught, as well as their lives are frantic. That's, I think, the main feel that they want to have through these opening shots, which will change topics quickly, introduce us to new ideas and things quickly, and so on. So here, there's a tracking shot backwards where the daughter's following the mother, and then it looks up at the ceiling at something that needs to be fixed, a water stain. And guess what that water stain is? Another black hole everything bagel-like. How many of these are we going to find? That's something that needs to be fixed. As, spoiler alert, but you knew this, the end of the movie fixes it. Joy creates the O, and then the mother has to fix it and pull her out of it. The mother's going to pull the googly eyes off of, and she's going to be annoyed by them, but she's going to use them later. So she's going to affirm the googly eyes later, putting them on her forehead in the crazy multiverse scenario. Now, here at 5:46, my timing is the end of the movie. This happens often in Hollywood movies where they give you the end of the movie, and you don't notice it, but it's in miniature, it's in a mundane form. The mother's going to reach into the is that a dryer or a washer? I don't know. I'm sorry not to know. But one of those two. She's going to reach in and pull something out of it. And well, if that's a spinning everything bagel circle of nihilism, she's going to pull something out, her daughter out late in the movie. Her daughter wants to go into it and annihilate herself or annihilate everything. And she wants to save the things that are mundane, save the things that are precious, save the things that are basic but love, that are her loves. So she's going to pull shoes out of this. It seems so easy and obvious here. Of course, you don't want shoes in this machine, but she will do that later in the momentousness of saving the multiverse, basically. And that little thing, that symbol of nothing, the dryer or the washer, both of them really are not to be misused. They're to be honored as what they are, and everything ends up mattering by the end of the movie. Daughter's going to follow mother around here. And the mother's going to pay attention to customers, as she did there with the shoes in the washer. And then she's going to pay attention to the customer at the window as the daughter follows around and tries to talk to her about the grandfather. And so 180-degree flips here with a customer who Evelyn insults in a way, a big-nosed customer. It's goofy, but it's also very tense. And this customer will come up as a multiverse character and a villain and the kung fu stuff that comes up a little bit later in the movie, as a number of other people in this scene will. This pink stool kicked, and then the customer interrupts, and then the baseball bat. Guess what? That baseball bat is all important later when the mother, at the nadir of the movie, I think the end of the second act, is going to destroy the laundromat with the baseball bat. Here she's just using it to get Wayman's attention. Everything ends up mattering in this movie. That's the message of the first 10 minutes. All these mundane little things that mean nothing or are used for ordinary purposes become extraordinary later on and become all symbols of importance. It's like a transcendental movie, in my opinion, where every object has a grander meaning because it's part of all this grand scheme of the multiverse and these all important philosophical issues of whether everything has meaning, nothing has meaning, do we have meaning, where do we get meaning from, why should we continue on with our lives, and this wonderful shot at 6:37 of Joy just being annoyed with her mother not paying attention to her with the customer. You notice her clothes are drabber, I think color-wise, more basic, more loose and casual, and it's sort of a symbol of whatever's going on inside her. Or she'll have wild changes of costume later in this, like many different changes of costume. But this costume fits, I suppose, the mood of this angsty younger person, whether she's a millennial or Gen X, trying to relate to her mother, and they don't obviously get along here because the mother's paying attention to the customers and frenzied. I think this is our second trip into the laundromat at this point. Wayman comes down, helps the customer because I think he's more customer friendly, more people friendly, and 180-degree flips all over the place as Evelyn is super annoyed, but yet the daughter is persistent. That is unlike what happens in this movie, where the mother is persistently following, trying to seek out the daughter. When we go into the apartment here, for whatever it is, the third time now, again, another focus change from the mess in the background, the characters entering into the foreground. There's the googly eyes on the clothing bag that Evelyn needs to get. Just a little Easter egg. Why is it the number 42? Most of my students don't know this because they don't know the reference. Maybe you don't either. I'm almost sure it's Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Isn't that the answer to the question, what's the meaning of the universe? The answer is 42. It's kind of nonsensical, but it's funny. So 42, the number on there as well. So everything matters. Does laundry matter? Should we care about laundry? It seems terrible. It's going to defeat us in the end because laundry is always going to have to be done. We'll die before we finish doing the laundry. But no, everything ends up mattering. Now, in this little scene here, again, mother and daughter at odds. That's the main idea. Shown was the mother's moving all over the foreground, over the top of the daughter. And now they're having this conversation where they think things matter, including Evelyn thinks this matters, but the camera goes into the TV where the things that matter. The multiverse problems are being shown here for the very first time on, as they suggested, the device, the electronic thing that shows us multiple perspectives. And now we can finally see the truth. It sets us up for later when the multiverse Wayman contacts Evelyn in the elevator. This doesn't come out of nowhere. We see it for the first time there in sort of the glitchy, matrixy way presented to us in that TV camera. Now here's a third time in the laundromat, and while Wayman and this customer are having fun and dancing around, she's serious business, literally, again, at 8:19 coming in between them with her business, the lost laundry bag. And in the background, just so you know, look at this little, I don't know what to call this. You should tell me what this is. It's a symbol, though, of one of the multiverses, which is she's going to be a singer in China. In a life path that takes her, or keeps her in China and doesn't have her coming to America with Wayman, her husband. So I think that's a hint of that. And then, of course, the television gives us a distraction, gives us an alternate reality of this movie. It's a fictional Bollywood musical? I think it is. That Evelyn gets invested in her own way. She dreams of being in that movie. And, of course, later in this movie, she becomes, in another multiverse, a famous movie star, which is a meta commentary or a meta idea because Michelle Yeoh is a movie star and we use actual footage of her in the movie. But here she's a different life path as a laundromat business owner. And she's between them dancing. Joy interrupts, but this wonderful little moment, again, another hint where this raccoon is on this sort of fetch a stuffed animal machine. So there's another raccoon for you if you want to see one. But the generational divide is here. The younger girlfriends, they relate to each other. Evelyn relates to no one. Wayman's trying to get her attention. The grandfather relates to no one. It's only the the generational divide. This is classic movie, TV show stuff. Has to be bridged. We get to then the movie, and then we're sucked into Evelyn's perception. She gets lost. This is the one thing that gets her attention, not her family, but this alternate dream world. She does dream of being something besides a laundromat owner, and the movie gets her attention. I think she's seen it before, why the guys are dancing in the background, and here we are with almost a fourth wall break, character fully positioned towards us. We are to be as invested in this dream movie world as she is. Kind of a tip-off. It's kind of a persuasive moment for the movie that we need to be invested in this movie itself, but really also in the multiverses that come up later on. So she gets snapped out of it, and we know by the sound effect and by real life intervening. Ideals versus reality comes up in this movie. One of the most basic philosophical divisions you can have. The daughter, again, at odds at a different level, foreground versus background to the older characters here, and she's very frustrated with everybody in her family. She doesn't know how to introduce her girlfriend to the grandfather, which is a big deal and has been talked about the entire opening of this. Of course, this is something that's going to be resolved later in the movie, thanks to Evelyn's ability to stand up to her father, ability to tolerate her daughter more. But here we'll get the introduction of the grandfather. And when you look at some of these shots, again, 180-degree flips, O's in the background with the spinning washer and dryer, quick camera moves all over the place. It's frantic, changing focus, changing meanings, changing who we should pay attention to. We get a shot at 9:15 where Waymond, it was very small with the O's spinning in the background, intervenes, and tries to correct Joy's moral behavior, a problem that comes up throughout the movie, with him being the happier helper sort of guide, Obi-Wan Kenobi like guide character, helping her as the chosen one do what she needs to do. That's going to come up, and he is trying to intervene on behalf of the daughter, who has her back turned to her mother. Here, though, is where the grandfather will be introduced. The daughter notices, or granddaughter Joy notices it first, and look at this shot at 9:21. She looks very small, very meek, very pathetic, almost childlike in her approach toward grandfather, who of course is the traditional Chinese figure, a man who has come from China, not grown up in America, not immigrated until his daughter family brought him over. But the patriarch who doesn't understand, and the language doesn't allow for the girlfriend relationship between his granddaughter and and her lover. Which then you get this shot, which is from behind him. This is how we get introduced to him. He's a figure in the foreground. This is like one of the first shots I showed you, where Waymond is in the foreground. We don't see his face. We'll see his face later. We see Evelyn's reaction to his face, which is very important because she's the main character, obviously. But how does she perceive everybody around her? That's what we need to know, because her perceptions are going to shape the entire movie and all the multiverse experiences. So how does she perceive her father? And then we get a 180-degree flip, I think. Not quite. No, it's not. Where the father is by himself. So these shots of, a pause here, the grandfather, who just has everybody in the foreground with Evelyn almost out of the picture, where he doesn't understand, he's isolated, he's speaking a language that he and Joy can't communicate in the language. That's one of the jokes here. And then the mother, if we go to the reverse shot of this, where she and the daughter and the girlfriend are focused on, are here's what I was talking about earlier. How the mother relates to the daughter. She's a go-between. She's literally between the grandfather and the granddaughter, her daughter. And she's helping the daughter relate to the grandfather. Her daughter relate to the grandfather. She's literally in between. This is a basic shot. It's high angle, looking over the shoulder. And I think that's important because it's playing down, making the female characters here look smaller in the eyes of the patriarch grandfather. And this is how they feel, of course, towards him. They feel submissive, I suppose, or smaller than he is. And when you see him in the reverse shot, we're looking up at him from a lower angle. So this is a wonderful moment, because this means that the relationships are complex. The granddaughter relates to her, or the daughter, Joy, relates to Evelyn, the mother, in a different way when they're by themselves. But when they have grandfather around, this is a different look and appearance. So this is the introduction of complexities in these relationships between these really four people: the husband, the wife, the daughter, the father to the mother, and then the girlfriend, obviously, in the background here. So this is the opening of everything. This is all I want to get to. Everything, everywhere, all at once. And you look in the background of this shot at 9:43, and there are O's everywhere. The idea of nothingness, nothing matters. Everything you do, you're gonna have to do it again. It's all just spinning. It's going nowhere. Those washers and dryers suggest so much about this movie. And then look at the grandfather shirt. Infinite O's, infinite black holes. Are they green or black? I can't quite see it here on my screen, but you know, he himself has these on him, and maybe that's what the character's looking into. And I think this movie has this great question of, why does anything matter at all? Why bother with anything? A great existential question that, frankly, when all these, here's my rant, a lot of universities are abandoning philosophy. They're abandoning the study of philosophy. Or there are very few people who are interested in it. But then this question is for everybody who's ever lived. Like, why bother doing what you're doing? Why bother living? Why bother continuing on? What do I mean? Who am I? All these questions come up with this movie, and it's trying to sort them out and figure them out in this complex way, which is also dealing with this goofy entertainment value, the multiverse, as you know, which is both dealing with Marvel movies on the one hand, pop physics on the other, that affirm that it could be plausible or real. maybe not. And so I love this movie a lot. Just in the opening is introducing us to the chaos of these characters and their strained relationships. So that's my analysis, but we could do this for the entire rest of the movie. I bet you would have great fun doing that. But that's all I'm going to do. Thank you for watching.